Good Morning Miramar, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. right here, right now.
Good morning, Miramar. My name is Danielle Realis, Marketing Coordinator with the City of Miramar's Office of Marketing and Public Relations. We are thrilled to have you all joining us this morning. Today, Tuesday, March the 13th. We're so excited to have another segment this month of Beyond Boundaries with Dr. Fleming and our very special guest, Administrator and CEO of Memorial Hospital West, Leah Carpenter. Good morning, Leah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And of course, Miss Alexis Fox, who is another wonderful component of this segment. So before we get into the show, I just wanted to remind everyone that if you have any questions for our audience today, you can call us live on the show, 1-877-2-MIRAMAR. That's 1-877-264-7262. We can take all of your questions live on the air. You can also connect with us on social media at City of Miramar on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, for today's moment in women's history, because as everybody knows, we are celebrating Women's History Month here in the City of Miramar, we would like to highlight Madeleine Albright. So for those of you who don't know, in January of 1997, international relations expert Madeleine K. Albright was sworn in as the United States 64th Secretary of State. She was the first woman to hold that job, which made her the highest-ranking woman in the federal government's history. Before President Bill Clinton asked her to be a part of his cabinet, Albright had also served as the permanent representative to the United Nations. So just a little fun fact for all of you, and thank you, Mrs. Albright, for all that you have done to pave the way for women out there in the government sector. So now I am going to turn it over to Dr. Fleming this morning, who's going to introduce our guests, and we're going to get into our wonderful topic today. Is it luck or is it intention? So,
Thank you. Well, good morning, Miramar. I have the awesome pleasure of having this conversation with a woman I hold dearly. We're talking about Women's History Month and women that have paved the way, and Leah Carpenter is definitely one of those women in my life. So thank you, Leah, for being here.
It's truly my pleasure.
So I don't want to hold the audience at suspense. I want us to kind of get into a little bit of your story, and I know that a lot of the things that you do and you have done have been intentional. So can you just share with the audience and all of us a little bit of your story and how intentions have played a part in that?
So my story starts all the way back many, many years. I'm a child prodigy, so I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But it starts back in Newark, New Jersey. I was born and raised in the inner city. And honestly, I was not supposed to be where I am, statistically. Just was not expected. If you just look at what the statistics said about black females during that era and in that time and in that place, it just really was not supposed to happen the way it did. But I came from a household of expectations. Came from a mother who said, your job is to speak out for everyone. Your job is to protect those who can't protect themselves. And my expectation is you will get a college education and you will get out of this hood, so to say. So I did that. Went to college, thought I wanted to be a doctor, and then realized that doctors were not the ones who were really having the impact on patients. It really was nurses who did that. Nurses were the ones who laid hands on patients. Nurses were the ones who had conversations, who actually had relationships with their patients and really made a significant difference in their lives. So I changed majors my sophomore year in college. I went to Rutgers University, both grad and undergrad. And I remember it was much to the dismay of my family. They felt like I was quitting because I was going to change from being a physician to being a nurse, not understanding what all that meant to me. And so I went through the ranks of nursing, and honestly, if I had my way, I would probably still be at the bedside. I loved it. It was what I was passionate about. But I have to say, being very spiritually based, it just really was not what God's plan was for me. And so I have a very severe disability, a hearing loss. I'm actually deaf in my right ear. And wear hearing aids, and that was a neurological problem that happened early on in my career, and it got progressively worse. So I came to a crossroads in my career where I had to decide, am I going to go nursing for teaching? Am I going to become an educator, or am I going to go into management? And truthfully, I didn't really want to go into management. The managers and the leaders that I knew in the early years were really just not the kind of people that I wanted to be. When I was coming through the ranks in nursing, they used to have to put 8x10 glossies up on all of the departments when the regulatory agencies were going to come in, because we didn't know who they were. There was a complete disconnect between leadership and the rank and file. So as far as I was concerned, that wasn't what I wanted to be a part of. But because of my my upbringing, which was, if you don't like something, you need to change it, or you have to be quiet about it. I had a big mouth. I couldn't be quiet about what I didn't like, the injustices in the healthcare field, the injustices of what happened in the community. So the expectation of my family was to do something about it. So that's how I ended up taking the management route. Worked my way up through the ranks, nurse manager, clinical managers, directors, etc. And each level, I was content because I felt like I was making a difference. But again, divine intervention, a bunch of amazing mentors who said, no, this is not enough. And it's not that it's not enough for you, because to me it was enough for me, but it wasn't enough from their perspective on the impact that I could have on other people's lives. So I thought, okay, I can't touch patients anymore, but I can touch patients. I can make a difference in their lives. I can make a difference in the lives of the people who care for them. And I can make a difference in terms of trying to groom young leaders and to help them to develop to be the best that they can be. So again, my career has just taken a crazy path. I was in New Jersey until the year 2000. And then my son's dad was based down here. He's a pilot for American Airlines, got based down here. He commuted for a little while. And then he said, okay, enough is enough. I can't do this commute anymore. So he asked me to join him down here in Florida. And I have to tell you, I didn't want to come. I came kicking and screaming. I was leaving New York City. I was leaving family and friends and everything that I knew. But got down here, and 6 months after, I knew I'd never go back. Worked for-profit, North Shore Medical Center in Miami. Loved that hospital. And I love that community because it looked like the community that I grew up in. It was a poor inner city community, and I was finding a way to give back. All the blessings, to those who much is given, much is expected, right? So I was able to give back to that community. But then I found some additional mentors and discovered the Memorial Healthcare System. And the senior leaders in this organization were so committed to patients, families, safety, quality, and service, and the things that are really, really important to me. They align absolutely, almost identically to what my morals, what my values were, my integrity, that I had to come and work for them. And so, worked my way through the organization, again, not looking for the next step, but a divine intervention, and again, sort of giving it to God and letting Him decide what my path will be. And to this day, that's what I do. I give it to Him, and He decides where I'm going to go.
And that, Leah, is the most beautiful thing about intentions. Knowing that you wanted to make an impact and be a part of the difference. In fact, be the difference as I've seen you, and then releasing yourself from the outcome. In fact, I think that was one of the things that I remember, and I shared with the ladies that when we talked about you coming on, when I first met you, I didn't know you, so I admired you from afar. And I remember giving a presentation to the executive committee and getting an email from you, and I see in my email box it said Leah Carpenter, and I'm like, okay, well, what's this about? And the email was simple. You just said, I'm so proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. And that meant a lot to me. And I remember scheduling a meet. I said, I need to meet with her. And so I was intentional about meeting with you, not expecting the relationship to be one thing or the other. And I will have to tell you, Leah Carpenter walks her talk.
So she's going to bring tears to my eyes, and this was not planned.
No,
I didn't even know you were going to be here
did.
today. But part of what I believe my purpose has been is so little about me and so much more about touching other people, touching other lives. I believe that that's what my legacy will be. It won't be any title that I carry. It will not be, any station in life that I achieve. It will really be, how many lives can you touch? How many people can you bring up through the ranks? How many people can you inspire just a little bit to be a little bit better than they were yesterday? So that really warms my heart, because it says maybe it's working.
And I don't think I've ever shared that with you.
No, you did not.
Yeah, and I wasn't intending to share it this morning, but I had to.
Good Morning Miramar exclusive. Right here.
The other thing is you walk your talk in that you don't remove accountability from people. I've seen you give some really tough messages and take some really tough actions, Leah, and then go back and care for the person. And that means a lot.
You know, you can't expect people to perform. You can't expect people to live up to your expectations if you, number one, are not doing the same. But, and more importantly, that you have not laid out what those expectations are. But the minute you lower your standards in any way, you have now lowered the standards for everyone else who is looking to you, for you, for advice and for guidance. So you always have to raise that bar. It's imperative that you raise the bar, because if not, you become stagnant. You become complacent, and frankly, you become arrogant. And that is an issue for me. You know, and I've said this. You know that I've said this in many presentations, that the key to real success is understanding that you're only as good as your last accomplishment.
That's
right. There's always going to be somebody who's better than you, or who's prettier than you, or who's more successful than you. That should not be your goal. Your ultimate goal should be doing the right thing at all times for everyone that you come in contact with. It's a hard thing to live up to, but yes, you do need to set that expectation and hold people to it.
Integrity is doing what's right even when nobody's watching, right?
Absolutely.
So Leah, if you could share with the audience and us, and we talk about intentions, for me, setting an intention and releasing myself from the outcome doesn't mean that I'm not working and doing what it is that I know that I'm supposed to do. But like you said, understanding that divine intelligence, divine intervention, God allows us to follow this path because it's what we were born to do. And so what would you say to that person that's listening and they don't quite know what their purpose is, or how to be intentional about, you know, how they live their lives?
I think, first of all, you know what your gifts are. And the gifts that you have, regardless of what it is, for me it was nursing, it was science and math. For other people it's literature. For other people it's public speaking and it's motivational speaking. Whatever that gift is you have to constantly work at it, constantly work at being better at it. But you also have to know, so that's your intentional, you know, your conscious, intentional, you know, desire to be a little bit better than what you are, right? To perfect your craft. But I also think that you have to know when to be still. For me, that was the hardest lesson that I ever had to learn, because I'm a Leo. I'm an action-oriented, I'm a fire personality. I want to do, go, and I just want to move. And learning how to be still when you don't know the answers, and being patient and waiting for that answer to come. Because I believe that if you don't know that answer after you push and you're intentional with everything that you do, then you're not meant to know that answer yet.
Intentional is a super action verb. It's one of those words where people hear it and it's very assertive and very proactive, but to your point, sometimes the biggest intent is just the willing yourself to stand still and receive whatever's supposed to come your way, and really just listen to your intuition, listen to, like you mentioned, a lot of different mentors and leaders, and really take in that message and not always just going. So sometimes intention isn't necessarily a doing, but maybe just a standing still, a self-reflection, taking the time to really contemplate what the next step is and making sure that it's a smart move and not just a move in any direction. So I think that that's such a great point that you bring up.
And you know, it's also listening. So, you know, people look to you as a leader. You all are leaders. You're leaders in your community. They look to you for answers. But you have to be humble enough to say, you know what, I don't have the answers. I may not have that answer. And you need to listen. Or, in many cases, in my case, I'll think I know the answer. I think I know the direction that we need to go. But I have to be willing to listen to the team that I've surrounded myself with to say, you know what, Leah, I'm not sure. And I have to create an environment that says, it's okay to challenge me. It's okay to give me something different to think about, because 9 times out of 10, all of those collective minds are going to come up with the right solution. So you're right. It is intentional listening. It's knowing when to act. It's knowing when to just be still. There's so many. It's very complex. You know, idea of this whole intentional living and intentional leading.
You said something key though, being secure. And insecurity and fear will create a stagnant environment beyond what we could even begin to imagine. And our strengths may not be the strengths of others, but collectively we can do anything that we, set out to do. So I think that's one of the things that I really value about leaders like you, Leah, is you do understand the importance of your team, and you do empower others to be who they are. And it may not be something that you would have ever thought of or you even agree with, but you give them the go-ahead to say, you know what, if you're not failing, I heard you say this once, and I believe if you're not failing, then you're not doing something right.
Yeah. If you're not making mistakes are how you learn. You don't learn from success. Success is fun, it feels good, you get accolades, you get all of that stuff. But in the end, if you're not making some mistakes, you're not learning. If you're not uncomfortable sometimes, you're not growing. You're just not growing. But a big piece of this also is about self-worth. And because it's Women's Month, I just have to touch on that just a little bit. And so many of us, especially women of color, but all women, especially what's happening in the nation today, it's coming out that so many of us think, we put on that mask of feeling worthy, we put on that mask of confidence, but if it's not genuine, it's not really who you are inside, then sooner or later, it's going to crumble down.
And it shows up.
It shows up. And I learned that actually from my baby sister, not me, the one who she always looked up to. I learned that more from her. In that, well, she's a personal coach, but she was the one who always used to say, you're just so worthy. And she would say that to all of us, the whole family. You have to believe in your worthiness, just not talk about it. And your worthiness isn't necessarily your confidence. Worthiness is feeling that you are important, that you mean something to God, to the world, that you have something to give, that you are valuable, that you are loved, that you
have
are
a
cared
purpose.
for. You have a purpose. Even if you don't know what that is right now,
you have one.
You have one. Absolutely.
And how would you say that people who don't have that, how can they garner that self-worthiness?
I think it takes a lot of internal work. A big piece of it is looking in the mirror and saying, okay, these are all of the things that are great about me. These are the things that I know, just me naked in front of the mirror, that are good about me. These are the things that I'm not crazy about. These are the things that I really need to work on. But I think they have to understand that their worth comes from within. It's not what anyone thinks of me.
Right.
Because I'll be honest with you, I really don't care. There is such a few, you have your little inner circle, you have that outer circle, and you have this big circle. I have grown over time, didn't come naturally. I was very insecure as a young woman. But you have to not care what other people think. What you have to do is care about what you think about yourself. And if you have those feelings of insecurity and you have those feelings that you're not worthy, then you've got to get to the heart of what those are. And you have to work on yourself before anybody else can come into the picture.
That's good stuff, Leah. I know that I like for people to be pleased with me. And that was something I've always known since I was a little girl. I like to make people happy. And this morning I was talking with Jermaine, and he was saying one of the things that I think is your superpower is you really do care about how other people progress and how they move forward. While that's a superpower, it's also that kryptonite for me. So I, like you just shared, I had to really get okay with me and knowing that I was enough, that what everybody else saw, I had to see those things for myself. And there was a point when I didn't understand that, and I didn't know that. And so, like you said, it's not that I don't care about what people say. I'm getting to the point where what they say doesn't change who I am. I do care. But, there's some people that can say my daughter, she doesn't care. She doesn't. But for me, because I know that that's something that also fuels me to be able to help others, I have to put it in the context about what do I say about me first. And then everything else will follow.
Now, it's interesting, though, because some people will interpret I don't care what people think as I'm better, or I don't value your opinion. What I care about is the impact that I have on other people's lives. That does mean something to me. But whether they care how I look, how much money I make, where I live, all of that is irrelevant to me. Those are all superficial things that I can't take to the grave. But what I can take to the grave is the impact on other lives that I've had, the leaders that I prepare for the future, who are going to eventually take care of me when I'm old and in a nursing home, and the impact that they have on the world. Those are the things that you want to care about, not the tangibles, but the intangibles.
Those things last. When everything else is taken away, those things will remain.
Yeah, they really will.
And as women, we're often told that we are lucky to be in certain positions or garnish certain opportunities, and it's really always been fascinating to me that it's not a matter of luck. I worked hard to get to where I am. You've worked hard to get to the status that you have and to make the impact that you've been able to make. So what do you say to women who maybe don't have that self-worth yet and feel like, oh, I need to take a back seat, or I can't express the change I may want to see because I'm just lucky to be here?
I don't believe in luck. And that's what I would tell them right from the start. You start from within, you begin to build those superpowers, those things that make you feel good about you. You begin to value your own gifts. You start to learn, and it's practice. It's not something, you know, I always say to people, you didn't know your ABCs when you were in kindergarten, right? So you had to keep saying it, right? Your parents kept drilling the ABCs in your head, right? Drilling the colors in your head. You have to keep drilling it into your heart, into your mind, and then eventually into your soul. That's when it becomes natural. But it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. And don't let anybody tell you, ever, that you are lucky to be here or we let you in. You know, I for a long time have sat around a table full of folks who maybe there are people who feel that I was lucky to be there. No, I worked hard, I earned it, and just watch and see. I care less about what they think and more about what I produce. And not because I want to prove anything to them, but I want to produce it for that next generation. I want to be able to reach back and say, hey, you girls who are feeling insecure and feel like you can't break that glass ceiling, absolutely you can. And I have a migraine for trying to help you do it. So I need you to keep doing that, you know, from banging my head on that ceiling. I need you to now crash through it.
I like that, Leah, going beyond proving, but really producing something that will bear more fruit, if you will. I like that.
That really is, for me, that is what my legacy will be. In addition to my son and all that I believe he will do, my legacy, if I'm blessed enough, will be the generation of folks, hopefully the lives that I've touched.
I love something you shared, and I have to say this, when you talked about looking at the leaders that were before you and knowing that that wasn't how you wanted leadership to look in your life. That's so important to me because I'm thankful for leaders like you and others that show really good examples, really great examples of leadership. Because for me, and my vision is, I envision a world where leadership evolves beyond role and responsibility. And so that's the impact that I look to make. And so those are the people that I gravitate to, and those are the people that gravitate to me. So I just want to personally thank you for being here this morning and being, you know, a part of my life, and that is very special to me.
No, you bless me.
And I'm intentional about us staying connected.
Oh, she is definitely intentional about it. Absolutely.
So thank you, Leah.
Thank
Ladies,
you.
anything else you want to?
No, thank you so much. And I wasn't privy to the depth of your story, and being able to share that, I think, in terms of your intention with your life and your legacy, this was going to be super helpful to girls out there, to people out there in general who just feel like they have to wait for luck instead of going out and producing your own version of success or whatever that is for you, and really honing in on skills and being intentional about whatever it is that you decide to do, and kind of just tuning out the outside.
And not being afraid of mistakes.
No, yes.
You're going to throw some spaghetti on the wall. Some will stick, some will not. But don't be afraid. That's the key. Don't let fear paralyze you.
Yes, definitely. And I think that was the whole idea when we were coming up with the topics for the shows on luck versus intention, to really tell everyone out there, luck's not real. I mean, St. Patrick's Day is coming up. I'm sure people are like, oh, lucky or whatever, but it's really about making that conscious and intentional effort to move forward. There was one more thing I wanted to ask you, and you talked a little bit about it, but I was interested when you were speaking, and it kind of brought me back to something that I've been thinking about lately, about that feeling of unworthiness and that insecurity and how that relates to pride. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you have to know what the difference is, okay? And you have to be very careful that pride does not translate into arrogance, that does not translate into overconfidence. But I also think the biggest key there is remaining humble at all times. So no matter how successful you get, no matter how far up the ranks you get, no matter how many people's lives that you touch, you never get to a point where, you know, I'm so high and mighty. You remain humble. You remind yourself that you always have something else to give, and there's always somebody else who can benefit from your grace. And I really think that it's that simple. People try to make it so complicated and so complex, and it really isn't.
Yeah.
It really is not. I think that it's, as you have to remain humble, but I also think that you have to know when to be prideful and be proud of what you're doing, and when to not let pride make you stubborn and ineffective or unable to hear those little voices that are or the big voice that speaks to you when you need to get a message.
Yeah, I think we all have that inner, and you know, you said it too, like you have to preach to yourself and
You do.
remind yourself all the time of those truths, because if you don't,
You know, and I've even tried to teach my son that. I've been putting stickies. He's 15 and he is, 15. He knows it all, like we all did.
Yes.
Little stickies to remind himself. Do whatever it is that you have to do to remind yourself of what you need to know.
Right. And you mentioned ownership. And ownership is a two-way street. People tend to feel like ownership is only when you've made a mistake. You need to take ownership of your mistake.
Right.
No, take ownership of your successes as well.
Absolutely.
They're your backlog. They're your receipts of why you can continue to do whatever it is that you've set out to do. So that was a great point. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for
today.
having
we
me.
Loved having you, and thank you so much, Dr. Fleming, for your insight as well and leading this conversation. It meant a lot to us.
Thank you.
And thank you, Alexis, too, for all of your great input.
Girl, I'm just here soaking it all in.
We're so glad you are.
This is our favorite time of the month when we have Beyond Boundaries with Dr. Fleming and our special guests. So we hope that you all tune in. Remember, this special segment airs live the second Tuesday of every month. So we have April coming up. Don't be fooled, April Fool's Day. We kind of like to tie it in with themes of the month. So we hope that you tune in for that special segment. And remember, we're live with Good Morning Miramar every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. You can keep up with us on social media at City of Miramar, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you all so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.